breaking news for Social Security beneficiaries. A stunning new report just dropped from the Senior Citizens League, and the numbers are completely different from what we discussed just weeks ago. If you rely on Social Security, this could significantly impact your monthly check in 2027. But before we dive into these critical details, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. We're bringing you the most up-to-date Social Security news and analysis, and you don't want to miss a single update that could affect your benefits. Let's get right into what this means for your wallet. Welcome back to the channel, your trusted source for Social Security news and updates. Today, we're breaking down a fresh analysis that's generating serious buzz in the Social Security community. The Senior Citizens League has just released their latest cost of living adjustment projection for 2027, and honestly, it's significantly more optimistic than the estimates we covered recently. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. 2027 seems far away, but here's why this matters right now. Understanding the trajectory and trends of these adjustments helps us prepare financially and set realistic expectations. We're going to compare the latest projections side by side with previous estimates, examine what the actual inflation data is telling us, and discuss the factors that could push these numbers higher or lower as we move through the year. The timing of this report is particularly interesting because we're in an election year, and historically that creates some unusual dynamics with economic data. We'll explore all of that in detail. Let me share the key details from this new Senior Citizens League report. According to their latest analysis, based on the January inflation data that was released in mid-February, they're projecting a 2.8% cost of living adjustment for Social Security benefits in 2027. Now, that percentage should sound familiar. It's exactly what beneficiaries received this year in 2026, and we all remember how that turned out, don't we? For many recipients, that 2.8% increase felt more like a cruel joke than meaningful help, especially after factoring in the Medicare Part B premium increase. Here's where things get interesting. Just a couple of weeks ago, when we analyzed that same January inflation data, the projection looked quite different. At that time, looking at the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, the CPIW, which is specifically what they use to calculate Social Security adjustments, the year-over-year increase was sitting at 2.2%. But in that earlier analysis, we emphasized the importance of looking beyond just the raw numbers. We discussed the trajectory of inflation, the seasonal patterns we typically see throughout the year, and the unique factors of 2026 being a midterm election year. Based on all those considerations, the projection was approximately 2.1% for the 2027 COLA. So we now have two different estimates on the table, the Senior Citizens League projection of 2.8% versus the earlier conservative estimate of 2.1%. That's a difference of 0.7%, which might not sound enormous, but when you're living on a fixed income, every fraction of a percent matters. Let's put this in perspective with real dollars. Remember what happened with the 2026 COLA? Beneficiaries received that 2.8% increase, but then Medicare Part B premiums jumped by $17.90 per month, a staggering 9.6% increase. For someone receiving $1,000 per month in Social Security benefits, that 2.8% COLA translated to just $28 more per month. Subtract the $18 Medicare premium increase, and you're left with a net gain of only $10. That's effectively a 1% raise after accounting for Medicare costs. And here's the brutal reality that many beneficiaries discovered. The lower your monthly benefit amount, the harder that Medicare premium increase hits you, and the less impact the COLA actually has on your bottom line. Now, let's talk about what could influence these projections between now and October, when the official announcement traditionally comes. First, we need to understand the calculation timeline. The Social Security Administration determines the COLA based on inflation data from the third quarter of the year, specifically July, August, and September. We're still months away from that crucial period, which means a lot can change. Several factors are in play here. The current inflation trend shows some volatility. Month to month, we're seeing fluctuations, but the overall trajectory is what matters for the annual calculation. Seasonal patterns typically show certain price increases during summer months, particularly in areas like food, energy, and travel. Then there's the elephant in the room. We're in a midterm election year. Historically, economic data during election cycles can be subject to, let's call it, favorable interpretation. We saw this pattern in the recent January jobs report and inflation data, which came in surprisingly positive after a string of concerning numbers. Whether that's coincidence or something more calculated is up for debate, but it's a pattern worth noting. The question becomes, will inflation remain relatively stable through the summer months, supporting that higher 2.8% projection, or will we see the deflationary pressures that would push us closer to that 2.1% estimate? There's also a more concerning scenario to consider. If inflation actually accelerates during those critical third quarter months, we could see an even higher COLA than currently projected. While that might sound good for benefit amounts, remember that higher inflation means everything costs more. Prices rarely come back down once they've increased, so a high COLA driven by high inflation is a double-edged sword. What does all this mean for Social Security beneficiaries planning ahead? Regardless of whether the final 2027 COLA lands at 2.1%, 2.8%, or somewhere in between, we're looking at relatively modest increases. Neither projection represents a substantial boost to purchasing power, especially when we factor in likely Medicare premium increases. The pattern we've seen in recent years continues. COLAs that technically increase benefit amounts but don't significantly improve financial situations once we account for rising healthcare costs and other fixed expenses that often outpace the adjustment. For those currently receiving benefits or planning to claim soon, this reinforces the importance of having additional income sources beyond Social Security. Whether that's retirement savings, part-time work within earnings limit guidelines, or other investments, relying solely on Social Security continues to be challenging. It's also worth noting that these projections, while informed by current data, remain estimates. We won't have definitive numbers until the Social Security Administration makes their official announcement in mid-October 2026, based on that crucial third quarter inflation data. The bottom line is this. Early projections point to a 2027 Social Security COLA somewhere in the range of 2.1% to 2.8%, with the Senior Citizens League's latest estimate on the higher end of that spectrum. While any increase is technically positive, the real-world impact on beneficiaries' budgets may be minimal, especially after accounting for Medicare and other cost increases. We'll continue monitoring the monthly inflation reports as they're released, tracking the trend through those critical summer months, and keeping you updated with fresh analysis every step of the way. The situation remains fluid, and there's still plenty of time for these projections to shift in either direction. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you don't miss any updates on Social Security news, COLA projections, Medicare changes, or any other developments that affect your benefits. Hit that subscribe button now and turn on notifications so you're always in the loop. Drop a comment below and let me know, how did the 2.8% COLA in 2026 actually impact your monthly budget after Medicare increases? Are you optimistic or concerned about the 2027 projections? Your experiences and insights help our entire community, so please share your thoughts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next update.